So the Natural Women's Council, we were formed in July of 2022 when the state tried to erase women from the Maternity Protection Acts, which luckily they didn't do. But if we fast forward into last March, they tried to erase woman and mother again, and luckily failed miserably because 75% voted no. Yes, woo-woo is right. We're not erased, we're still here. So what we've done is as Linda said, the library campaign. We've gone into, I can't even count how many libraries, 5 Garda stations for pulse numbers, numerous letters on email, and also registered post, both to Minister Foley, all of the parents. We did a campaign for parents to send letters to their school, to their board of management. We did an opt-out letter, another opt-out letter. We did a letter when we found out Belong To was going in school. We did a Belong To letter. Following the Belong To campaign, which was so successful, that letter campaign really took off. There was an NGO called Hope and Courage Collective, and the director of that is Orla from the National Women's Council of Ireland. And that group went into the Dáil, and they put my picture on the screen in the Dáil when I launched the Belong To campaign, because it was affecting their funding, and they were completely slanderous, accusing me of spreading misinformation, hate, and accused me of burning down immigration centres, which obviously is completely untrue. So this just shows they will go to no lengths to try to silence and threaten and slander us. So we did letters on Belong To, letters on the junior cycle. We also submitted formal draft submissions to the NCCA for the junior cycle, the senior cycle, and most recently the primary school. We also shared with parents all the research we did through podcasts, through letter campaigns, because we had a group of teachers on the primary school campaign research group with the NCCA draft submission. We spent probably close to 400 hours with all of our teachers. They attended focus groups. They looked through everything with a fine-tooth comb because the language is very deceptive, and Eugene will talk about that. So we've done NCCA campaigns to TDs, numerous letters, at least 12, letters for parents to send. We've done leaflets, because the best way to get the information out is to talk to people face to face and make the human connection. We did 250,000 leaflets for the junior cycle in 2023. I got a lot of exercise during that campaign. We set up hubs around the country. We hit nearly every single county, and every day went to the post office with a trolley and posted boxes off to every single county for people like you to pass those leaflets out. Over 100,000 for the referendum. So in a nutshell, what we've done so far is lots of letters, lots of emails, lots of live street events, lots of leaflets, and more and more and more, and radio interviews, just to try to get the message out. But that's why we're here today, because we can't do it alone. We will run out of steam. We need the beast is coming quite quickly, and we need to slay the dragon once and for all. But I wanted to turn it over to Niamh Regan, because she has done exceptional in forming a community with parents. She lives down the road from me and has a very small country school, and she's gotten lots of parents on side. So I'd just like to sort of, for the parents in the audience today, how do you open up the conversation? How do you make them aware of what's happening? How does the conversation look? What works?
Well, what finally worked was the Beacon Altus policy, which is relevant to all of us. Beacon Altus is the monster that's flying through every primary school and every secondary school at the moment. And so, for a long time, I was aware that gender ideology was coming to national school in some way. And I was more or less ignored until Beacon Altus came in, and I read the policy, and it's called your Beacon Altus anti-bullying policy. But when you read it, that's where you find the detail. And it really has nothing to do with bullying at all. It is the conduit in which gender ideology is headed to the primary school classrooms. So basically what I did was I had the coffees, I looked at the books in the classroom, I went to people like yourselves, the Countess, the other organisations that are here, just to find out how far is it in the classrooms already. And it is quite far. But once the Beacon Altus policy is ratified, you're wide open to the books, the posters, possibly the curriculum, most likely the curriculum, and there are a few sleight of hand tricks when Beacon Altus comes in. The Beacon Altus policies are being ratified at the schools now, but they're signing everybody up for the full implementation of the new SPAG curriculum, which is not published yet. So they're taking the consent in advance for the new SPAG curriculum. So when I mentioned it to other parents in my circle, they were just as concerned as I was, because I then finally had a document to say, look, it is there, it is coming to our schools. And we just, because we all had similar worries, and some of us had similar worries for different reasons, we got together and just tried to communicate those difficulties and those views and those concerns to the school. We also went from the other direction. We wrote to the department just to ask, for families like ours who are not going to go along with gender ideology being taught to our children, how are you going to make an accommodation for us? Because they always say, oh, well, parents have the right to opt out of anything. But how do you access that when it's going to go in anyway, which is what's happening? And I suppose that's where we're at now as a group in the school, and as groups in other schools, and groups like yourselves in the Natural Women's Council. What do we do? Like, we did get together, we did express our concerns, we're going to continue to do that, but Canaltas is the big beast at the moment. So that's as far as I am. But it's literally just say it to the mother in your class that you see her in the car park. It's like, have you seen this? Or this book was given to my child. Did you hear anything about that? And it starts from there. And there is concern growing about it, and you're not the only one. That was the main thing I was saying to Jana that I wanted to say today. If you're the parent in the school and you think you're the only one, because I certainly did, I'm sure you did. I've had those conversations where people look at the ground because it's like, oh, it's your one going on about that again. You're not the only one. And, you know, they are your kids. You're their best advocate. And I'm probably the same as you in that I need to figure out how to do it properly myself, but that's as far as I've got anyway at the moment. But I would encourage all of you, check, is Beacon Altus done in your school? That's your starting point. Go to your principal, go to your teacher and start asking.
Well done. Edel, something that I suppose struck out we did a good few Zoom calls preparing for the content. What do people need to hear? What are we hearing from our subscribers? What emails are coming in? And the biggest thing was around fear of speaking, being othered. And it's very easy when you speak to be othered. But now the tide is turning, and there's a lot more people who come up to myself, who is ostracized at my own school, but people that come up at the sporting events and say, I follow your work, I actually agree with you now. So the tide's turning. But how do you break the silence? You talked about the fear the other night.
Yeah, and thank you, Jana. And wonderful work, wonderful conference, and thank you. And, you know, as a parent who I have kids in primary, 5 girls, primary, secondary school, and fear was the first thing I felt for myself. I'm a secondary school teacher myself on leave at the minute. I was worried, would it affect my job? And then I was worried my kids, how would it affect them if I spoke out? Again, my computer just died, so I just wing it at this stage. And then I thought to myself, well, you know what? In 20 years' time, 30 years' time, I might even be here. But what would our grandkids, how will they be affected? And if we don't take action now and stand up and speak out, and that goes for, because I actually remember at the time I reached out to Department of Education, unions, National Parents Council, actually the primary National Parents Council. I often go on webinars that they hold online, and they are unbelievable, the kind of stuff that they teach. For example, teaching parents how to teach their kid about gender neutrality. The last couple of weeks ago, and they said to the parents, they have these experts they bring in from third level institutions, so-called experts, and they said to the parents, so what you should do is give your boys dolls to play with and your girls cars to play with, and just maybe don't dress your girls in pink, you know, when they're little babies. And so I just thought this was absolutely ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with your children remaining innocent up to an age appropriate. Obviously, they will, you know, naturally they'll be looking for information, and each parent loves and knows their child intimately, and they should decide. And another big problem, actually, I don't know where to start, there's so much, but parent consultation or a lack of. And I know myself from asking questions and writing tons of letters to schools, you just get stonewalled, and this is a massive problem. And teachers are quite reluctant to share information, or maybe don't have it themselves, and are also afraid themselves. But We are entitled to, our constitution says we are the primary educators, we are entitled to information. Do not be afraid. Approach your principal, your school. Writing letters is best, everything writing, paper trail. And ask those questions. You're entitled to know what your child is learning in the classroom. And you know, and unfortunately I made several phone calls and all I got was stonewalled, which is really unfair to parents. And also it's quite upsetting to listen to all that kind of stuff available to children, especially when you want your children to grow up healthy, happy individuals, and it's going to affect their brain capacity as well, their emotional, their educational development. Because if they don't have their emotional life right, it will affect their future development. There's an awful lot to talk about, but do not be afraid. Stand up, stand out. That goes to and even you have unions. They're all in alliance. Non-government, which is there's no such thing as a non-government organisation. It's a line. They're all inextricably linked to government, paid by government to corrupt our children, sent into the schools to corrupt our children. They're our children. Stand up, back off from our kids. Thank you.
Right? Yeah. Do you want to go through that? Yeah.
I just want to draw attention to the slide that's there. When the Beacon Alta policies are being put together in the schools, a principal and one other teacher they normally go to training by OIDE, which is the professional development group for teachers. This slide, I think, summarises exactly how the controversial material is just getting into the schools. They go to the training this school year, 24-25. They're told they have got to get this policy right by this year. Okay, and they are doing that. It's nearly Easter, so most of them have it done. It's going to be rolled out in the next year, which is in line with the new curriculum that's coming in, so that's 25-26. But if you see the bottom left one there, that says that's the required language. They have to have that language in their Beacon Alta policy. So they have to cover homophobic bullying, transphobic bullying, identity bullying and all of that. So they write these policies with the schools. That's the prescribed language. There was no consultation on that. There is no change to that. They send this policy back to the school and you can tinker around the edge with the document then. But no feedback is taken if you ask for that to be taken out. So it's already done and dusted, and there was no parental consultation on it. So I just thought that slide kind of summed up the whole thing. I think that is useful, and it's a good starting point for anybody who's just kind of coming to realise what's going on in the schools. So I hope I didn't go over time.
No, not at all. I think
about opt-out. It's your statutory right to opt your child out of any or all programmes that you deem inappropriate. And it also follows a school is authorised under Section 40 of the Act, Education Act, to provide alternative tuition to pupils who do not attend SPG instruction. So sitting at the back of the class, that's not appropriate either. You want your child out of the programme. So that is, parents are well within their rights, and it's becoming more common. All of my children are opted out, and it's no big deal. They just sit, it's only a half an hour if they sit outside, you know. So it's the information is out there on the National Women's Council website. There's lots of letters. So there is help out there. There's a lot of experts there. And to be honest with you, most parents you talk to are in agreement with you. And they don't want their kids to be sexualised, you know, at a young age, you know. So we're all in agreement. It's just that there's a few people who have a disproportionate influence on our children. Thank you.
Thanks. I think the two things before I hand it over to Eugene, who's our last speaker before the tea and coffee come, the 2 points that I want to make is, one, all of you and the parents out there need more support. And we've done letters real time. We fire them out as we find something's happening. We develop a letter, another letter, another letter. We hit the street with leaflets, and you're just running so fast to keep up with it. But what we've met with our team over the last couple of weeks that we're going to do to better support you and the parents out there, because it is overwhelming, is where do you start? We have developing a guide, a nice guide. So if you don't know anything about it, or if you know a little bit, or maybe a lot, you can download the guide from our website. We'll have that guide on a QR code on the leaflets we're going to do. That guide will allow you to walk into your child's teacher, principal, board of management, TD, or a few mommies or daddies coming over for coffee, it allows you to kind of walk through what's happening, where it's coming from, but also links to support it. So we know that things are coming so fast and it's overwhelming. We are going to work on that after we get through this week. And then the second thing I would say I want to leave you with from this panel is to not give up. It's like you can feel like over the years, and we've been at this for a lot of years now, that you're banging your head and you're banging your head and you're not getting through. I remember it was January 2023 and Roderick O'Gorman, and it was announced in the paper, he wants to bring, the article said, transgender studies into primary school. I printed off the article, went into my next PA meeting and said, I want to talk about something that came out, went into this. The chair of the PA said, it's just fantastic, everybody could be included. What's the next item on the agenda? And they moved on to plants in the garden or teas and biscuits and completely sidelined me, shut me down and would not let me speak. But if I fast forward now, I said, maybe the PA doesn't agree, but my principal and teachers need to know that I'm going to be aware of what's happening in my child's classroom. So when I say I've written numerous letters and had numerous meetings and numerous phone calls, I can't even count them on my hands. But something changed. Something changed. That tree that wasn't getting cut down with that axe over the last 2 years is now starting to fall because I asked my school's principal, I want to see everything my age 6 and 9 are going to be seeing for this SPHE. He sent me all these links. So it was Friday night, cup of tea, went through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Oh my goodness, age 5, transgenderism, different families, same love. And it was teaching all the terms that Linda reviewed for my little boy, age 6. Gonna call a meeting, let's get this in writing, boom. And the next time the conversation came is, if we won't be bringing this into our school, teachers aren't going to be using this. If any child mentions anything about trans, they're to talk to their mommy and daddy. There you go. So we can't give up. So, you know, you may get the eye rolls, you may get the claps when you're silenced, you may be othered, your kids might not get the play dates anytime soon. I understand that, trust me, I understand that. But you can't give up because the change is coming and you don't want to be complicit and be part of the problem. So you have to speak. We don't have a choice. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eugene in a moment. I'll read his bio. And thanks to these lovely, lovely moms, teachers for